Hello, BookTube. This is Alan. Back in the last part of May, I was watching Johnny King's uh, BookTube channel, and he showed a book that I have to get that one. And it was from the New York Review of Books, which I had never heard of, and so I got onto their website, and they sent me emails. And over the course of this year, they had 20th anniversary celebration. So they were each weekend they would send me an email showing some of the books that they had on sale. It was like 9 books. It was either two for $20, three for $30, four for $40, or they would have a sale with half off. And they would choose books at random, like memoirs, essays, uh, suspense, things of this nature. So over the course of this year, I purchased 20 books from them. Now, the book that Johnny King showed was this one, Stalingrad by Vasiliev Grossman. I have the first one, Life and Fate by Vasiliev Grossman, but I needed this one, which came out this year and is the prequel to Life and Faith, which I just showed a while ago. Vasiliev Grossman, as some of you know, or some of you don't know, he was a reporter for the Russian Star newspaper during World War II. He went with the Red Army all the way into Berlin. There was a book at Half Price Bookstore, which when I was in there one time, it's the book about Vasiliev Grossman, about his writings, and I should have got it, and I don't know why I didn't. And one of the things that struck me was that the one of his writings, Vasiliev Grossman talks about in this book. Vasiliev Grossman talks about this Berlin Zoo, and this zookeeper was crying over this gorilla who had got shot in the crossfire and was dying. It makes me think about how many tens of thousands of animals got killed during that war. So Vasiliev Grossman, when he published these books, the manuscript had to be smuggled out of Russia. The KGB was upon him. So it's Life and Fate, and then Stalingrad, which I have not read. So both are pretty big and pretty detailed in the book. The next book is The Road by Vasiliev Grossman. This is a series of articles which he wrote, and short stories and essays and journalism and excerpts. There's a picture of the author. And The Road was there's one essay here. It's called The Hell of Treblinka. It talks about the Treblinka death camp, and his observances and reporting of that death camp was used in the Nuremberg war trials. This is very good. I've read all of this, and it's very good. The next one, which also got in trouble with the KGB and Soviet authorities, is called is this one here, Everything Flows by Vasiliev Grossman. And in it, he talks about the Stalinist purge in one of the villages where they essentially starved people to death. Another short story is one in which he takes the contemplation of what the Russian people had done throughout the life. Oh, here it is. It's called Note on collectivization and the Terror Famine. So let me go on with the other one. What he did was he looked at the Russian history and saw that the peasants were people of Russia were actually taking the shackles, which they thought that enslaved them, and just exchanging it for another form of slavery. So he went from the czars to communist Russia. This next one is on the list of 1,001 books to read before you die, or 100 books to read before you die. Those type of lists is very easy to do. All you have to do is just read the books you want to read and don't read the books you don't want to read, and you're done. But this is Berlin Alexanderplatz by Alfred Duman. This is a very good book. It has a the character's name, and Franz Biberkorf. He just got out of prison, and he wants to change his life around. And this setting takes place towards the end of the Weimar Republic in an area called Berlin Alexanderplatz. So he wants to change his life around. He does for a while, and then he falls back into bad things, and then he goes back to turn my life around again, and it just goes back and forth like that. And you have the political with the communist and the National Socialist Party that comes into play, and then you have life going around him also as he continues to fight this going back and forth between being good and being bad, getting in trouble otherwise. And excuse me. And so in the book, the author has a stock market reports. He talks about the weather. He talks about the news. And it's like, well, life is just going on. Even if you're there. And I like this cover. I like that cover. This one. Berlin Alexanderplatz by Alfred Duman. The next book I got is The Prank, the best young Chekhov, and it's selected by Anton Chekhov, and his brother Nikolai Chekhov. This is just a series of short stories. They're attacking bureaucrats, attacking artists, attacking basically everybody, and a series of short stories, and it has the illustrations in here are done by Anton Chekhov's brother, Nikolai Chekhov. It's a very good illustration, and they are very funny. There's one in here. Let's see if I can find it real quick. You have things like a center from Toledo. You have one called Artists' Wives. There's one here. It's this one, Flying Islands by Jules Verne, a parody. This one is hilarious. You have three men. They get in this rocket ship, and they want to go to the speck that they see that's on the side of the moon. And they take off in the spaceship, and they're in this chamber, compressed chamber. And I'll read you this part. They sat in a hermetically sealed cube filled with compressed air and containing a machine to manufacture oxygen. and there's a little asterisk there. You look down at the bottom of the page, and it says, a gas. Oxygen is a gas made up by chemists. They say that one cannot live without it. What rubbish! The only thing that one cannot live without is money. And there's one back here that has a couple of notes on it. And there's one called 1,001 Passions of One Dreadful Night. Gentleman's one man's wife gave birth to his sixth son, and he was so happy that he hung himself. This is called The Prank. The next one is The Go-Between by L.P. Hartley. This is a story. It starts out with a man looking through a closet, and he comes upon a box, and he opens the box, and he's eating collars in there. Eating in London. And the story just takes off from there. When he was the man looking through the box was a young man, about 1900, and some kids at the Eton school were bullying him. So he put a curse on them, and they fell off the roof. And he was invited by his friend there at the school to spend the summer at an estate. And his friend's sister had an affair with the gentleman. And the next farmer was just close to the estate. And they were using this young man as a go-between, deliver messages. That's where the title comes from. A lot of people on Goodreads were saying, "Oh, this is the loss of innocence," and I didn't think so, because the main character in the story, is would be called mentally challenged today, because he can't take a bath by himself. He is really slow. His attentive language is really, really slow. So so it's a good book. It reads really well, but you get tired of the main character a lot, the way he acts. The next book is which I did not finish. This is by Ivo Andrich. It's Omer Pasalatas, Marshal to the Sultan. It's set in 19th century Sarajevo, where Muslims and Christians are living. And it starts off good. It starts off really good. Talked about the strengths. It talked about little skirmishes, little battles. And then the main character decides to go back into the city and get his picture painting. And that's where the story, or the translation, just loses it, because you have a short biography of the painter, you have a short biographical sketch of the artist, you have one of the main character, Omer Pasalatas, you have a biographical sketch of his best friend, and it keeps going on and on and on. There's different flashbacks that really want the story to continue, but it stops right there, and I didn't finish this one. I'll reach over here and grab a couple more. There's a couple here that I haven't read. This is Grand Hotel by Vicky Baum. Takes place in the 1920s Berlin. It serves as a microcosm of the modern world, as it says on the back. And you have and you have this. It became a bestseller. Haven't read this one yet. This one is Letters, Summer 1926. Boris Pasternak, Maria Testateva, Rainier Maria Renko. And they used to be playwrights in Russia. Two of them fled Russia. One is in Sweden. I think that's Rainier is in Sweden. And he's suffering from cancer. And Marina fled with her family to France. So they're corresponding back and forth between one another. I've read parts of these, and it says in the back that Boris Pasternak, Moscow, trying to come to terms with the new Bolshevik regime, and Rainier's in Switzerland. It was dying of cancer, and they just started having a correspondence together. And the preface is by Susan Sontag. So that's Letters, Summer 1926. This next one I have read. This one's Door. This is by Magda Szabo. Introduction by Ellie Smith. And it tells a tale of Magda is a writer. And it tells a tale of this author who's with the communist regime in Hungary. And she needs a maid because he's very busy. So she hires this maid named Emirates. Now, Emirates is very stubborn, works her own hours, says she wants to do this, wants to do that. She doesn't want to do this. She doesn't pay any attention to and wants to have it her own way, and she keeps demanding on Magda to come to her terms. Once in the story, Magda had to take her husband to the hospital, and when they get back, Emmerich is very upset because you didn't tell me that your husband's leaving. You're going with your husband to the hospital. You didn't tell me. And she gives Emmerich brings a dog into the apartment, which Magda and her husband didn't ask for, and the dog only obeys Emmerich. And the reason it's called the Door is because Emmerich lives in this little house that no one has ever seen the inside of it. And it's a very curious thing. And you see how the two characters, Magda and Emmerich, are, they're drawn far apart, then all of a sudden they start coming together. And at the end they come together. And it's a very good book, well written. I recommend this one, The Door by Magda Szabo. And that's see how many that it was. Yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 12 New York Review of Books. I have about 8 more to go, I believe. 9 more to go. So I'll make another video, and take care and have a good day.